What's going on, Watt family? What the heck is this? I gotta lower this. How do I lower this volume here? What's going on, Watt family? Hope everyone's having a good evening. Welcome to the first episode of the Watt Hustle channel, where we ride, we hustle, we repeat. I'm going to be doing a live broadcast every Wednesday at 7 p.m., or at least I'm going to try to be as consistent as possible. Now, as I said before, in my update, in my 2026 entry into 2026 update on the channel, I have one goal and one goal only, and that is to provide you guys with some value in terms of being consistent and being informative as it relates to e-bikes and hopefully entertaining. And for those that are new to this channel or not aware of the channel, my slogan is Ride, Hustle, Repeat. Why? Because I'm a firm believer that I don't care who you are, where you're from, I don't care of your economic standpoint. If you get an e-bike, there's a lot you can do, right? You can have fun on that e-bike. That bike can help you save money. That bike can help you make money. You can start doing things and have the freedom that you probably never even considered. If you didn't consider, hopefully this channel will help you see the value in owning an e-bike, right? But specifically, for those that are looking to get ahead of the game, meaning those that are struggling financially, those that are in debt, those that want to start investing, those that want to get in shape, those that want to get outside and explore, the list goes on and on. This is the channel for you. And if you subscribe to this channel, my promise to you is that I will do everything I can to provide what I just talked about, and more importantly, be consistent. There's a lot of people that start their channels, but in a very short period of time, they quit, right? They're not around, because doing this isn't easy, but nothing worthwhile ever is easy. There's a lot of work that goes behind the scenes, and putting out a video every day like I have been for the last 4 months. I don't think I've missed a day. I can be wrong, but I don't think I've missed a day that I have not put out a video. And I want to continue with that trend for as long as God gives me the health to do so. So anyway, I'll start this episode with the following. If you're new here, welcome. Please, if you like the content, consider subscribing, hit that like button, and more importantly, comment in the comment section. Tell me where you're watching from, and say hi, right? And if you don't like the content, let me know. Let's have a discussion. Today's episode, I was supposed to have, or I wanted to have Bob he's got two channels, the Growing Young After 50 channel and the South Jersey Dashing channel. I believe it's the second one that he has. I wanted to have him on today, but he's not feeling well. He lives in Jersey, and I wanted to bring him on because the topic of conversation, I wanted to be around the new e-bike law that passed over there. But like I mentioned, he's not doing well, so I'm going to leave that subject to next week's live. But today, what I want to talk about is something just as interesting and controversial as that e-bike law is. And that is, what's the most overhyped or underrated e-bike feature? Now, I have my opinion. I want to hear your opinion. So if let me see if I open this up. First of all, guys, I'm going to have a very difficult time reading this screen here. So, but please comment below. Oh, Bob is here. Bob, my brother, hope you're doing better. But comment, tell me where you're watching from. I already see that we have Julio from Miami. You got Lorena from Colombia in the house. Oh, there you go, Lorena. Yeah, show me. So if you guys don't know, Lorena's going to be in the background. She's going to be handling my my comments. Hi, Wanda. Wanda's always on the channel. Same is Premium, Valentina. Damn, you guys are the best. If you have comments, just list them below. I'll try to get to them. When I can. Oh, this is not the same Bob. But Bob, nice seeing you, buddy. Anyway, my beautiful people, let's talk about the most overhyped and or most underrated e-bike feature, right? The first one I want to talk about is going to be speed, right? Those that watch the channel, those that know, I like speed. I'm addicted to speed, but I have discovered, especially in the last 3 to 4 months, that speed is really, in my opinion, an overhyped feature. Now, I want to separate two things, two very important things. This channel is about e-bikes, not e-motos. So sorry for those Suron lovers out there. That is not an e-bike. That is an e-moto. And I think, I'm going to start off by saying this. One of the reasons, Barushka from Orlando, hi. One of the reasons why I think we're having a lot of regulations currently today is as a result of these e-motos, not e-bikes, e-motos, right? But let's talk about this, the overhyped aspect of speed. Now, I need all my bikes are, they have the ability to go faster than 35 miles an hour. And if they don't, they're not in my fleet. But the main reason why I have that is not necessarily because I like to go, 40, 50 miles an hour constantly everywhere I go. I don't do that. But there's areas, and I live in South Florida, and South Florida is really not, although you're starting to see it, but it's still not as bike friendly as places like you find in Europe, right? It's not that type of town. And there's times where I have to ride in streets. The best feature on an e-bike is that it has pedals. 100%, Bob. It has freaking pedals, bro. That is the best feature, and that's why I love it, right? I'm a cyclist at heart. But going back to the speed component, I need a bike to have the ability to do that 40 miles an hour so that I can feel safe when I'm traveling on a roadway that doesn't have a designated bike lane. If you look at statistics, and I'm solely speaking about South Florida because this is where I'm at, and I did the analytics, I pulled the statistics. The majority of the cycling deaths, not crashes, because the majority of crashes are done by bikes being hit from the side because they're not being seen. But fatalities happen when the cyclist gets rear-ended. And they get rear-ended because the distracted driver that's on his cell phone is doing the speed limit or faster, and they come up on you so quickly, and if you're doing 10, 15 miles an hour, you're going too slow and they're going too fast for them to react. And you get rear-ended, and that's where the fatalities happen. So that's why for me, speed is important, but it's not necessary. And I think it's overhyped in many aspects of e-bikes. Going a class 3 e-bike that goes 28 miles an hour is sufficient. I have done, if you look at any of my videos, when I dash on my bike, and when I go out there and hustle on Uber Eats and DoorDash, I always give you the final numbers at the end. And the final numbers always show that my average speed is under 25 miles an hour. So I got a question here. What advice do you have for people new to e-bikes? What mistakes should we avoid? All right. Advice for new people on e-bike. Number one, don't get a high-powered e-bike. That's a big mistake. A lot of guys, they watch these videos, and a lot of people hype up these high-powered e-bikes. I'm going to name a few, not that they're bad e-bikes, but I'm going to name a few like Wired and Magician, Onyx. These are all super high-powered e-bikes. Beautiful bikes, great companies. But if you're new to an e-bike and you don't have motorcycle driving experience, these bikes are too heavy, too powerful. You're going to get hurt on them. I have experience. I have a lot of experience. When I first got my Wired Scout, I said this before on other videos. When I first got my Wired Scout, I crashed on the thing, right? Why? Because the torque was too strong, and I didn't anticipate the torque being that powerful, and I crashed, right? Didn't get injured because of the grace of God, but I know others that have. So avoid getting a high-powered e-bike if you're brand new to e-bikes. There's a lot of other great Class 3 e-bikes. Now, Wired Scout gives you the ability to keep it in that mode. So if you get a wired bike, keep it in the Class 2, Class 3 classification and don't unlock it, right? I think that's a big mistake. People unlock it if they're inexperienced. Okay. Who disagrees? If you disagree with the fact that speed is an overhype aspect, put in the comments and tell me why you think it's overhyped. Or if you agree, tell me you agree. But let's move on to the next one. Here's one thing about speed as well. And this is why I think it's overhyped, right? One of the things that kills the battery is speed. I just finished doing the coast-to-coast, the Florida coast-to-coast ride, meaning I started my morning watching the sunrise. There was no sunrise because it was foggy, but the goal was to watch the sunrise on the east coast of Florida and then race the sun over to the west coast of Florida. And in this case, I started in Titusville, Florida, and I raced over to the Tampa area, the beach in the Tampa area on the west coast, right? And I had two high-powered e-bikes that had a lot of range. But because I went on the bike trail, and I didn't realize this, one of the mistakes that I made was that the bike trails have a speed limit, and it's 15 miles an hour. They don't want you to go faster than 15 miles an hour on these bike trails. So being a responsible individual, I didn't want to be that guy and go 35 miles an hour on these bike trails. So I stayed within that 15. There was a couple of times that I'd hit the 20 mile an hour range, but I didn't want to do that. But that caused me to be behind in my checkpoints because I had a plan to make it to watch the sunset, which was only 10 hours. I had to cover 250 miles in 10 hours. So I had to do an average speed of 25 miles an hour. If a lot of the bike trail, I'm doing 15, just imagine how much faster I have to go to make it up. And I tried that, but boy, did that kill my battery. I was on the Testway X5, and I only got 65 miles on that Testway X5 because I rode a dual motor, full throttle, as for as long as I can, and it only gave me 60 miles. So speed will definitely decrease your range. It was one of the reasons why when you see these high-powered e-bikes and they claim to have a top speed, let's say a top speed of 40 miles an hour, you're only getting that 40 miles an hour for a very short period of time because once that battery dips down to a certain percentage, you're going to lose that speed. There's bikes out there that don't do that as early, like my Mini Goat, my Motor Goat, my two favorite bikes, and I'm going to take a sidestep here. Today I had a meeting with Brian over at Go Power Bikes, a very good productive meeting with him because they have a better program, and I'm going to be participating in this program. And it's basically they're going to be advertising us as their preferred mechanic shop or bike shop in the South Florida area. So we're going to be participating in that. Super excited about that. And they also finally, after begging and emailing them almost a million times, they finally allowed me to be part of their affiliate program. So if you're interested in a goat powered bike, whether it's the Billy Goat, the Mini Goat, the Motor Goat, the King Goat, if you're interested in any of those bikes, I'm going to have the link, or my link to their website down below. If you're considering on buying those bikes or any bike that I'm affiliated with, I have a bunch of companies like Tessway, Ihora, Anioki, just to name a few. Consider using my link because it costs you nothing, but it saves you money. In this case, Goat Bike gave me a 5% discount code, which is What Hustle, for any purchase on their website. But I do have other bikes like Tessway, Anioki, where it can be as high as 10% off. But consider using the link because, again, it costs you nothing and it saves you money when you purchase some of these e-bikes. Anyway, getting back on track. My next overhyped feature on a bike is dual motor. Man, there's a lot of you guys out there that, and I want to say a lot of you guys out there like the dual motor because a lot of you guys out there probably don't know the difference and don't understand, don't understand what it is to have a single high-powered, nice riding bike versus a dual motor bike. Here's my reason why I say this is definitely an overhyped feature on an e-bike. Most of you don't need dual motor. In fact, it's my opinion that the only people that need dual motor e-bikes are hunters. And I just learned this recently from a guy who bought one of my bikes and came to buy specifically a dual motor bike. And he's in Florida. We have no hills. And I tried to sell him another bike that wasn't dual motor, and he explained why he wanted the dual motor. And it's the only reason I think that you need dual motor, right? His explanation was the following. As a hunter, you're in the woods a lot, and there's a tendency to get branches and different stuff getting caught on the derailleur or damaging that rear motor. If you only have a rear motor, then you're stuck, you're done, right? But he wanted a dual motor bike that you couldn't switch between the front and back motor. Because if that happens, he wants the ability to switch to the front motor to get out of wherever he's at. Makes complete sense to me. 100%. I say if you're a hunter, get a dual motor bike. But again, not all dual motor bikes allows you to just use the front motor. In fact, there's not that many that allow you to just use that front motor. But that's the only reason you need it. I personally feel, and I've ridden a lot of bikes. I've reviewed a lot of bikes. A dual motor e-bike doesn't ride as smooth and as nice as a single motor e-bike. In fact, my Tessway X5, and I have the Tessway X5, and I have the X7. The X7 is single motor. My X5 is dual motor. And even on my X5, I hardly ever turn on that front motor. I only operate that single motor. But my X7, that single motor, because you don't have that motor in the front, it's a lighter bike, easier to maneuver, and I get more range than I do on my X5. Even with me just turning on that rear motor, I still get more range on the X7. So I think that dual motor e-bikes are overhyped, unnecessary for the great majority of you. All you really need is that a strong rear motor, and you're good to go. Bob writes here, I have a 52. Lorena, bring that up. I want to see that. Yeah, so Bob, even in a hilly area, you don't need that dual motor, but you're right. They are fun. And a lot of people love, especially if you have a very high, powerful front motor where you get that spin out. That's cool, right? It is cool to spin that motor out. I agree with you, Bob. I think it's just overhyped, and you're paying more money for that dual motor, right? So if you got the money and you like that spin out, and range is not an issue for you, then by all means get the dual motor. Bob, you mentioned you have a 52 dual motor bike. Which bike is it? All right, so South Jersey Dashing, that's who I was talking about in the beginning of this video. Hope you're feeling better, buddy. And thank you for hopping on. Okay. This long, whatever, Intercambios Realty. Which GO bike do you recommend and why? I recommend all GO bikes, but I'm going to tell you what my favorite GO bike is. It is the Mini GO. By far, in my opinion, it is to date, right now, it is the best stock bike that you can buy for the money. I don't think there's a single bike on the market that beats the Mini GO for its value, for its build quality, for its comfort, for the ride quality, for its power, its speed, and the value, right? Because obviously, if you spend $6,000 on an Onyx, there's an argument there, right? But you're spending $6,000, right? That Mini GO, and I have a lot of bikes, man. I've probably ridden every bike that's available on the market. There's a select few that I have not been on, like the Spark bikes, like the Javelin and the Brute, and maybe some off-market bikes. But that Mini GO, in my opinion, is the best bike. Thank you, sir. Misty's watching with me. Yeah, yes. I'm telling you, that Mini GO. If you ever ride a Mini GO, you won't go back. In fact, and it's a really little bike. And one of the things that surprised me, I used to say that it really wasn't for big people, but I know big people that are 6 feet or taller that have the bike and completely love it. And probably the most famous guy is Matt from Shoot the Shit. I think his name is Matt or Mike, whatever. Shoot the Shit guy. That guy has a Mini GO. He's a tall dude. He's a big dude. And watch his video because he agrees it is one of the best bikes on the market. And I forgot to mention, again, now that Misty's watching and Bob is watching, guys, let's all congratulate them. They just got married. I wish you guys the best. Like it says in your vows, or I don't know if it's in your vows, but there's a quote in the Bible that says that what God united, let no man separate. I wish that for you guys. Wish you all the happiness in the world. Love you guys. I gotta look up that bike. I don't think I've ever heard of that bike. I'm surprised that I have not heard of your bike. Let me look that up. KTTELESV 3 electric e-bike. Yeah. Great bike, and I'm gonna tell you that's a knockoff of the Seeker 24. I'm sorry, not the Seeker 24. Seeker 24 is 24 by 4-inch fat tire. Tutio's Adrian. There's a couple of bikes. The Puja bike is very similar to this, but I love these bikes. I did a review on the Puja 3 and the 6th, which is a 26 by 4-inch fat tire, very similar to this bike. These are good, and these are fast bikes. Very good budget e-bikes. Photo, bring up this. As in GO power bikes, that Mini GO. Yes, that's the bike, Bob. Lorena, bring up fun photos question. Installing a bigger sprocket on your bike gets rid of ghost penalty. Not necessarily true. It does get rid of, it helps with it, but it won't get rid of it. Like, I'm going to give you an example. I've done that on multiple bikes, like my Julia Pro, the Julia Pro 2, my Move Cam. It just helps you get more, the delay for the ghost penalty is delayed. But any bike that goes over 45 miles an hour, with the exception of some of the wired bikes, the Magician Alpha, the wired bikes, those bikes, you can pedal up to 50 miles an hour. But the great majority of them, even if you change the cassette in the back, bigger chain ring, once you get past 40 miles an hour, you're ghost pedaling. And some of them, once you get past 35 miles an hour, you're going to ghost pedal. E3, John Hicks main bike. What's the new laws here? Yeah. SRA dashing. We're going to, I talked about in the beginning that I wanted you on today to specifically talk about some of the new laws that are coming out, specifically the one in Jersey where you live. But we're going to talk about that next week with you on. We'll go live and we'll talk about the new laws that are in effect or coming into effect. But briefly, I don't want to spoil next week's live broadcast. But man, I really hate what's happening, what happened in New Jersey and what's being considered in other places. And all I can say is that if you own an e-bike, you have to be an advocate. You're going to have to be an advocate, and you're going to have to do what I do on a daily basis, and that's write emails to your legislators and educate them on e-bikes. And I'll jump on my high horse right here real quick, because my biggest pet peeve right now with some of these laws is that I got money. I can afford to register the bike, and I can afford to get insurance on a bike. But there's a lot of people that depend on these e-bikes that have an e-bike because they can't afford a car, because they have had a checkered past and their license has been suspended. And the only way they can survive and get to work is with an e-bike. And for Jersey to pass the dumbest freaking law I've ever heard is just dumbfounding. But anyways, I don't want to get into it because I don't want to spoil it for next week. But yeah, listen, I am fired up with Jersey. Number one, I am so glad I don't freaking live there. But number two, it's really bothering me, because I work with a lot of I don't want to say underprivileged, but a lot of people that are struggling. A lot of people that have an e-bike because, again, they don't have a driver's license because of what happened in the past. And you're taking away the one thing that's allowing them to survive and get to work and to move around. It's sad. Anyway, guys, this is going to, if there's Laura, do we have any other questions? Oh, wait, let me just make sure I got the last, because there was like 3 things I put on my list about overhyped. Actually, 2 more things I want to talk about overhyped on an e-bike. And this one's really, I'm not really sure how I feel about this one, but it is going to be on turn signals, right? I believe that all e-bikes should have turn signals, and I put turn signals on all my bikes, but I got to tell you, man, when I'm riding, I often forget to even turn them on. So turn signal is going to be one of them. I don't think, I'm on the fence whether it's overhyped or not. But I do think that they all should have turn signal. I think every bike, regardless of speed, should have turn signals. And the last thing I want to talk about is what I feel that's overhyped on an e-bike is, or not overhyped, underhyped or underrated. And I kind of touched on it before, is battery, right? Range. I can't, I need a bike that has a lot of range. If you're going to replace your car, you're going to need a bike that has a lot of range. So, and I'm going to quickly go over the importance of bikes, right? The great majority of bikes, budget bikes I'm going to talk about, they only have about a 15 amp hour battery, right? Whether it's 48 volt, 52 volt, doesn't matter. But a 15 amp hour battery is not going to be sufficient for someone that's trying to replace their car. If you just want to go out for a couple of miles, then by all means get that. But that's not going to be sufficient. And I would say that even a 20 amp hour battery isn't sufficient. I can tell you that on all my bikes, I have a minimum of 40 amp hours. That's a minimum. So if the bike came with a 20 amp hour battery, I added a second battery or I added a big battery. I'm going to give you a couple of examples. My YR20 came with a 20 amp hour battery. I had Kevin over at Northeast Battery System build me a 40 amp hour battery, and I put a 40 amp hour battery on that. My Filoto Falcon has a 30 amp hour battery. I had Kevin build me a 40 amp hour battery, and I put a 40 amp hour battery on that for a total of 70 amp hours, right? My Mini Goat, my Motor Goat, they all have over 75 amp hours batteries on them. So range is, in my opinion, the most underrated, underhyped component of an e-bike that there is. And, recently the biggest, which went viral and everybody was talking about it for a little bit, is what came out of the conference in Vegas, which is steady state batteries, right? I'm hoping that companies start to focus more on building lighter, smaller, higher capacity batteries, because that's where the industry needs to go. But that's if we don't get morons, idiots like Jersey and start putting these unnecessary regulations on e-bikes. And again, I want to separate e-bikes from e-motos, right? E-bikes are way different than e-motos. Anyway, Lorena, if we don't have anything else, I can't see any of the full comments. I want to thank you guys for watching. Don't forget, ride, hustle, repeat.
Wait, Bob.
What happened?
Bob just write a question for you.
We need a place to stay in Honolulu. Got any connections? I wish, my brother, I wish. No, that's the one state that I don't operate in, is Honolulu. But anyways, if that's it, again, let me finish again. Let me repeat. Ride, hustle, repeat. Love you guys. See you in the next one.